Hello friends, welcome to Kreation 3D. You guys asked for beginner tutorial in Blender, so here we are starting a tutorial series for beginner and focused on low-end PCs that have at least dual core processor, 8 GB of RAM, 1 GB of graphics card. This is the lowest spec for Blender in my opinion. Also in this specs, you will see Blender crashing sometimes only if we try to run more intense scenes that need more resources. But the fun part is that I started Blender first time on my PC when it has only dual core processor, 2 GB of RAM, and it has no graphics card. And it crashes a lot. After seeing the full beginners series, you will learn how to create this scene in Blender. So let's start our tutorial. For those who don't know how to download Blender, let's see how it is done. First, go to any browser and search for Blender. Click the first link from blender.org. This is the official site of Blender. Here you can see the download option. From this you will get the latest stable version of Blender. Then you will go to the main download page where you can select which operating system based Blender you want, or you can download the source code of Blender. After selecting your operating system, click download. After downloading, install Blender like any other application. After installation, open Blender. You will see something like this. Here you can see a splash screen that shows the Blender version in the top corner. Then you can see the recent files, and you can see the layout or which type of project you want to start. Here you have option for general layout, 2D animation, VFX, sculpting and video editing. We can talk about them later in this series. Under the layout option, we have the option to open Blender file from your directory. For closing splash screen, you can click anywhere in the screen. In general or default layout, you can see 4 windows. The big window with graph and a cube is called 3D viewport. The window on the top right corner is called outlier. The window in the right down side is called properties panel, and the window with numbers and play buttons is called timeline. So let's talk about what these windows for, starting with 3D viewport. 3D viewport is the window which Blender shows the 3D models and shows how our 3D world will look like and shows all the objects that we are working with. In this default scene we have 3 objects, cube, camera, and light. All the objects in the 3D viewport will show in the outliner, which we can select from any of these 2 windows. If we have many objects in the scene and we can't find the object that we need to edit, in this case we can use the search option in the outliner and find the object. Next we have properties panel, which we have options like physics, modifiers, constraints, render engine, etc. We can talk about them later. After that we have timeline. If you use any applications to edit video or something, you can easily understand what it is. In brief, timeline shows frame by frame representation of animation or video, whatever it is. We can talk about timeline later in this series. While learning a new software, first we need to study its basic navigations. So let's learn navigation. In 3D viewport, we can pan around our object, revolve around our object, as you can see it here. So let's see how it is done. While changing our viewing angle, you can see a gizmo that is rotating in the top right corner of 3D viewport. You can click and drag this gizmo to rotate around the object. As you all know that 3D has 3 axes, which is X, Y and Z, and these axes have been labeled on the gizmo. You can click each axis to change view to that specific axis. Each axis have its own color to identify it quickly. X-axis is red, Z-axis is blue, and Y-axis is green in color. You can use middle mouse button to do the same action without using gizmo. Just click and drag with middle mouse button. Next we can zoom. As usual, you can use the scroll wheel or you can use a specific button showing a magnifying glass. After that we can pan our view by using the button shows a hand image under the zooming button, or you can use the middle mouse button with shift. Click and drag the button to pan. Under that button you can see a button with camera image on it, which helps to go into the camera view. We can talk about camera in later. Under that you can see a button with the image of graph on it, which helps to toggle the view to perspective or orthographic, or you can use the shortcut, number 5 on the keypad. Now let's check out transforms of objects, which is we can move objects, rotate objects, scale objects, and some other operations. In the left side of the viewport we can see some options. Let's look into it. At first we have a mouse pointer and a square, which helps to select how our selection should be. That means selection should be box select, circle select, lasso select. For changing selection type, click and hold on the button to show its option, and select the selection type you want, without releasing the left mouse, and release when you are done with selection. These selections will help you when you want to select objects from many objects. After that we have an option called Change Cursor. Cursor is where the object's bent to spin when it is added to the scene. By changing the cursor you have many possibilities. For that you can select the Change Cursor option and click wherever you want, otherwise you can click right mouse button with Shift. And for resetting the cursor you can click Shift S, it will pop a bunch of options and you need to select Cursor to World Origin. We will learn more about cursor later. After that we have Move, otherwise called Grab. As it says, it helps to move objects. For this you can select the Move option, then click and drag, or G key is the shortcut. In Blender, if made any move, rotation, scale or any other action and suddenly you change your mind and you need to cancel the action, for this you can simply click the right mouse button to cancel it. As you can see in the gizmo, it shows 3 arrows with 3 colors that represent axis, which you move the object specifically in an axis. As we said, red arrow is for x-axis, green arrow is for y-axis and blue arrow for z-axis. We can click and drag the white circle to move object with respect to our point of view. More than that, we can isolate an axis while moving object. For this, 3 square planes are available in the gizmo. Click and drag any of the plane to isolate. The selected plane will isolate it and the object will move in the other 2 axes. It has also colors representing the axis. Now we have rotation. Rotation option can be accessed by the option in the left side of the viewport or by shortcut. First we will see how the gizmo-based option will work and then shortcuts. Rotation is also like the move option. We can rotate objects specifically in an axis or rotate from the point of view. Shortcut for rotation is R key. While pressing R key, object will rotate with respect to the point of view. Or we can rotate specifically in an axis by pressing the R key and specify your axis. Axes can be specified by X, Y and Z keys. After rotation we have scale option. Scaling will deform the object to big or small by user's decision. Scaling is also like other 2 option. You can scale object in specified axis or in all axes other than point of view. Simply select the scale option or click shortcut S key to scale an object. Like rotation and move, we can press scale and specify any axis, or simply scale. We can also isolate axis by pressing S key and shift clicking the axis, or use the plane in the gizmo to isolate an axis. After that we have the transform option, which have all the move, rotate, scale option except the isolating axis option. You can identify move option by the arrows in the gizmo, rotation by the curves, and scale by the square head arrow. Shortcuts for the transforms are the same shortcut keys of move, rotate and scale option. This option can be used when you want to access every action by one gizmo. Then we have annotation, which helps to sketch something in the viewport or used in add-ons. We can talk about them later. After that we have a measuring tool to measure the objects. This will help to get an idea about the scale of object. At last we have a tool to place new primitive objects on the surface of any object. Like the first cursor selection tool, we can click and hold to select the type of object we want to place. After selecting the object, click and drag on any object's surface to make that object. For making the object with perfect scale, click and drag with holding Shift key. So that's it for the first tutorial. These are the basic options and shortcuts that every Blender user need to know. If you make to the end of this video, make sure to practice these and familiarize the windows. And I hope you learned something new. Next part will come soon. If it was released, I will link that video in the description or at the end screen. I will see you in the next video.